Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Skye and today we are doing a first impressions, swatches and a look with the Glaminatrix You Beauty palette. In case you don't know, Glaminatrix is an Australian indie brand based in Queensland, and this palette is inspired by Australia. And in case you don't know, or if you're new to my channel, I am half Australian. I grew up in Australia, so I'm just gonna be honest, this palette automatically holds a special place in my heart. Now, this palette was sent to me in PR, so thank you so much, Glaminatrix, for sending this over to me. This video isn't sponsored, I just wanted to share this palette with y'all because this is a very sought after palette. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. We have a mix of mattes, duochromes, and multichromes in here, and all of the shade names are Aussie slang. This palette does retail for $95 US, or £52.62. So first things first, let's swatch all of these shadows and I will take you a tour on what the names mean. When you do purchase this palette, Glaminatrix does provide a little card with translations of the shade names. I have not swatched this yet, so we're gonna get my true reactions on camera. The first shade is called Australia. This name is pretty self-explanatory. It's slang for Australia. This is an ocean blue metallic shade. That's what it looks like right there. I will build up the swatch for you. The sea and the ocean in Australia is exactly this colour. It's so magnificent. The next shade is a eucalyptus colour and this is called Bloody Oath. When you say Bloody Oath, you're basically agreeing with someone. It's basically like saying damn right it is. Bloody oath it is. And this is our first matte. Ooh, that is nicely pigmented, very creamy. I've never tried Glaminatrix's matte formula before. I have tried their shimmers though. That is a beautiful smooth matte. Again, I will be building up these swatches just so you can see them a bit nicely. I will say when I did swatch that colour, it does look darker in the swatch than it does in the pan. I don't know if you can really tell, but it does look lighter in the pan, which I don't really think that's a bad thing. It means more people can use it. The next shade is a lavender metallic and this shade is called Chockers. Chockers means something is completely full. Like for an example, I can't fit any more eyeshadow palettes in my drawers, it's Chockers. And this right here is Chockers. Oh, that is beautiful. It's kind of got a bit of a silver reflect to it as well. The next shade is Stitch Up and this is a nice warm chocolate brown. A stitch up is basically a situation where you didn't expect to be fucked over. To put it nicely. I guess the American equivalent would be what a ruse, but instead we say what a stitch up. And that right there, oh, that is pigmented. That is Stitch Up. I will build up the swatch right here since it's less pigmented. Now I will say that if this dark brown isn't quite deep enough for you, Glaminatrix do have an option on the website where you can swap this shade out with their shade called Bittersweet. I'll put a picture right here. This is just a comparison of Stitch Up and Bittersweet next to each other. So if you did want a deeper option, they do offer one for you. This next shade is a beautiful navy and this is called Fair Dinkum. When you say fair dinkum, you basically are saying that something is the absolute truth and you're not kidding. It can also be used in place of seriously, or for me personally, I like to use it as fair enough. So like someone says, oh, the grass is green, fair dinkum. And this is the swatch of Fair Dinkum. Very beautiful. Gonna build that up a little bit. That is a very saturated navy. We are now moving on to the first multi-chrome in the palette, and this is Old Mate. It's like an antique gold that shifts to green. A lot of the time we use it in case we forget someone's name. The way that I use it is when I refer to someone who I've known for a long time or like a really close friend. And this right here is Old Mate. Oh, that is stunning. It's got that warm brown base, but then flashes to antique gold and green. That is gorgeous. Oh, from my angle, there's a bit of a blue-brownness to it, so it's like a blue-brown to like a goldy green. That's beautiful. This next shade is a matte kind of beigey mauve, and this is She'll Be Right. This one's pretty self-explanatory, it just means it'll be okay. And this right here is She'll Be Right. This one again does swatch darker than it looks in the pan. I was a little bit worried that this shade and Bloody Oath would be too light and more pastel, but they do appear deeper on the skin, which I do like. This next shade is a bright red matte, and this is Budgie Smugglers. This is probably my favourite name in the palette because I feel like a lot of non-Aussies would look at this and be like, Budgie Smugglers, what does that refer to, like the birds or something? Are you stealing birds? No, it means tight-fitting men's swimwear. Speedos. I'm sure you can guess why they're called Budgie Smugglers. Oh, I fucking love that. I love this shade name so much. This right here is Budgie Smugglers. Oh, that is a bright bitch. That reminds me of like the red dirt in the Outback. Fucking love it. Apologies that my finger is a little bit stained, but this is Whoop Whoop. This is a light yellow metallic with a bit of a blue sheen. Whoop Whoop means the middle of nowhere, and this is my mum's favorite shade in the palette because she uses Whoop Whoop all the time. It's one of her favorite words, and anytime she says it, everyone's always like, what the fuck are you talking about? I swatched Whoop Whoop, but because the staining on my finger was quite prevalent, it made the shadow look a bit more orange, so let's try that again. And this right here is Whoop Whoop. That is a beautiful shade. You can almost kind of get away with that as an inner corner highlight because it's so light. The next shade is probably my favorite matte in the palette, and this is Struth. It's a very pale orange, almost mustard color. Struth is basically used as like an exclamation. Like the way that I would use it in a sentence is like, Struth mate, what do you mean? And that right there is Struth. Oh, that is a gorgeous color. This color, oh, it's definitely my favorite matte in the palette. I love shades like this. This next shade is an iridescent that shifts from red to yellow, and this is Flaming Galah. When you call someone a Flaming Galah, you're basically calling them an idiot. Like if someone's overreacting to a situation, you go, mate, you're a Flaming Galah, calm down. I feel like just looking at this shade, oh my goodness, what? That right there might be one of my favorite shades in the palette. I think these two together, maybe the red, this shade, or one of these. Oh my gosh, okay, so from my angle, I'm seeing the yellow and the green, and then I think from your angle, you're seeing the orange and the red. Oh my goodness. Whoa, that is a true what am I doing with my arm? I don't know if you're gonna see it on my finger, the shift. Oh my goodness. That is ridiculous. And now we're moving on to the final shade in the palette, and y'all aren't ready to see this one. This is G'day, and this is a green to orange to like yellow multichrome. This isn't an iridescent shade. I think you can see on my finger just how chrome that looks. And G'day is probably the easiest one to understand in this palette, and it's just a greeting. It literally means good day. I think I'm most excited to swatch this one. Oh, wow, that was one swipe. Can I... Oh my gosh, wait, I'm gonna swatch this on my hand to see if I can show you the shift a bit better. This is Australia in a multi-chrome. Holy shit! So you can kind of see on my hand the orange and yellow flash to it. Oh, you can see the green there, hang on a minute. So there's the orange to yellow, and there's the green. Holy fuck. Fuck me, that is one of the prettiest shadows I've ever seen in my entire life! I will show the palette after swatching it. As you can see, some of these metallics, not the multi-chromes right here, but these metallics are much softer. I find that Glaminatrix's shimmer formula, like their duochromes and standard shimmers, are very, like, crumbly in the pan. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something to point out. And also the mattes are very softly pressed too, so do keep that in mind. Let's have a final look at all of the shades swatched. So this is Australia, Bloody Oath, Chockers, Stitch Up, Fair Dinkum, Old Mate, She'll Be Right, Budgie Smugglers, Whoop Whoop, Struth, Flaming Galah, and G'day. The different textures in this palette and the fact that there's multi-chromes in it, you know that we're going to use some of the multi-chromes today. I definitely want to use G'day all over the lid just so we can watch the magic. But I'm gonna wipe these off, zoom you guys in a little bit closer, and we'll get on into doing the look. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna be priming my eyes with the Milani eyeshadow primer. This is my favorite eyeshadow primer of all time. I think this is my third bottle of the stuff. I find that this primer works pretty universally with almost every single eyeshadow formula that I've tried, and I don't like to set my eyeshadow primer, I like to leave it a little bit tacky. Now I will say, normally I like to do this eye on camera, however, I do have a couple of under the skin breakouts right here, right where I blend my fucking eyeshadow. And usually whenever I have breakouts in this area, eyeshadow does not like to blend well on top of it. So if that happens, just know it's not the eyeshadow's fault, it's my skin being a bitch. I think I mentioned earlier that I do really want to use G'day, like this. I might use this on the inner corner, maybe some of these in the crease. I definitely want to use Australia on my lower lash line, like I want to do something warm with a pop of blue. But to start us off, I'm gonna go in with Struth. I did tap my brush in a couple of times and there is, I don't know if you can see that, there's a lot of powder kick up with this one. So I'm just gonna whack that in my crease. Very pigmented right off the bat. There is quite a lot of kick up in the pan, which I don't mind. I prefer softer eyeshadows. And for me personally, I don't really use the mirrors in palettes, but I find that sometimes if there's a lot of powder kick up and you're using the mirror in the palette, all the powder fallout will fall onto your lap. But I always like to use my little compact mirror anyway, so I can get nice and close, so it's not really an issue for me. And we're going to be bringing out this shadow all the way to my temples as per usual. Alright, so first impressions of this shade, very pigmented, easy to blend. I mean, you can see that this is just beautiful to work with. I'm now going to take the shade Budgie Smugglers. I'm going to be taking that shade on a small little blending brush and place that in the outer corner so we can see how these shadows lay on top of each other. I'm really liking how that's looking. It's not skipping at all, not patchy. This is blending beautifully. I'm going back in with that first brush I used with a tiny bit of Struth on it, and I'm just going to be blending it out even further. I really hate that I have these acne spots here because it's kind of hurting blending over them, but oh well. This red shade is blending stunningly. I'm just going back and forth between the two brushes to blend, but that is so blendable. I really fucking like that. Now I'm going to be taking the shade G'day. I will not be applying glitter glue on my eyes because I want to see how these act without one. First, I'm going to swirl my finger in it first, because I do like applying shimmers with my finger. And let's apply that. Oh my fucking god. Are you kidding me? Is this real? Am I dreaming? I don't really have words for how stunning this is. You joking? Now on this eye, I will try to apply it with a brush. First, I will be applying it dry, and then I will be spraying my brush. Okay, so this is the application with a dry brush. What? I'm a little bit confused because this is applying beautifully with a dry brush. I normally do not like applying my shimmers with a dry brush. I like to at least wet the brush or just use my finger, but this is picking up perfectly. I will spray my brush real quick. This is just water, and let's just see how that applies. If I didn't already love Glaminatrix, I am now married to them. I'm marrying your brand. Just going in a bit with Budgie Smugglers again, just to blend the lid and the crease together a little bit, but that is... I'm sorry that I'm like at a loss for words, that's a bit annoying, but like, I have a lot of feelings right now and I'm loving it. I'm gonna take a bit of Struth and Budgie Smugglers and I'm going to be putting that on the outer half of my lower lash line. I was thinking about using Bloody Oath, but I do want to keep this a bit more like warm toned. Who am I? It's very rare that I like oranges, but I mean, how can I not? With this shade and this crease work, I'm in love. I do want to use that Australia shade because I love mixing blues with warm tones. I think it looks so pretty. I gotta say, this Budgie Smugglers shade is giving me everything that I want from a nice burnt red shadow and more. Yes, bitch. Now I'm gonna be taking the shade Australia and I'm gonna be putting this on the inner portion of my lower lash line. I love putting shimmers right here. It just adds a bit more dimension. I'm gonna first be applying this dry. Normally I prefer to apply Glaminatrix's regular shimmers with a wet brush because I find that they stick better because they don't really stick all too well on a dry brush, but let's give it a shot. I love that. I do love that it's not just a blue shimmer, it does have an aqua shift in it. Okay, that applied very nicely on a dry brush. I'm now going to wet my brush for the other eye. Ironically, I think it applied better with a dry brush. Let me layer on top of that, not adding any extra water. Yeah, strangely enough, that applies better when it's dry. That's weird. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but like normally when I wet my brushes, they apply better, but this one doesn't really apply that well wet. To finish up the eyes, I'm gonna be taking Flaming Galah. Shade is an iridescent multichrome, very similar to like Tara Moon's shadows, from what I've seen. So again, we're gonna be applying this dry first on the inner corner. Oh yes, you can really see that red sheen. That is very pretty. Now I'm gonna be wetting the brush for the other eye. Since this one is that multichrome formula, I feel like it will apply better when it's wet. Oh yeah, definitely. You can, I don't know if you can tell on camera, this eye, I mean, it's still bright, it's still there, but this one is large and in charge. And you can see the multichrome shift in it a bit better. Like, I can really see the green and the orange. For my waterline, I'm gonna be using the Lethal Gel Liner in the shade Analog, because I want to tie in the blue a little bit more. Before I go off camera and finish up my mascara and lip, I do want to use Flaming Galah as my highlight today because I haven't applied highlighter yet. Picking this up on my highlight brush and I will be spraying it because I want this to be very intense. Okay, let's see how this... I'm gagged. Oh my god. Oh, you can really see the pink. Oh, I think I applied too much. Oh, oopsie whoopsie. I really hope you can see the multichrome shift because I can really see the red pink to gold and green on my cheeks. Oh my goodness. Just gonna be buffing that in slightly. This might be one of my favorite looks that I've done. Holy shit. Okay, I'm gonna go off camera, finish up my brows, mascara, and lips, and I'll come back to give you some of my final thoughts and talk a little bit more about the palette. Alright, so this is the completed look. I don't think you're gonna be able to see how fucking shifty these multichromes that I'm using are, but I feel so beautiful in this look today. Now, normally in my first impression videos, I like to give you information about the shipping, but since I got this in PR, I cannot provide any information to you, so I'm very sorry. And a reminder, this is not a review. I've only used this palette once, and I have only used how many shades? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yes, I do want to remind you, this is not a review. I will be testing this palette out further. I will be doing a 3 looks 1 palette plus review video with this palette, which should be going out next week. In that video, I will give you guys a proper review of it because by that time, I would have used this palette for maybe about a week. First impressions, the mattes that I used, Struth and Budgie Smugglers, blend effortlessly. They're very pigmented, very smooth, very softly pressed in the pan, and there was absolutely no fallout from the mattes on my face, which I'm very impressed with considering how soft these are. The 2 multi-chromes here are so smooth and shifty and very sparkly too. These are definitely a different formula to the other Glaminatrix shimmers that I've tried. I've tried their standard shimmers and their duochromes, but not their multi-chromes. And these multi-chromes are fucking phenomenal. They apply beautifully dry with a finger with a wet brush. I will say that Flaming Galah looks better when you apply it with a wet brush, but normally iridescents are like that. They do apply better when they're wet. Australia right here did apply better with a dry brush, weirdly enough. It did not apply that well with a wet brush, but that's not a big deal, just something to note. I will say that this is £52, which is very expensive. That is a pricey palette. However, another thing to note that I forgot to mention, that these pans in here are magnetized, so you can take out the pans and swap them out with any other shadow that you have, which I really do like. I really don't like when a palette is so expensive and it's not even magnetized because I do like to take eyeshadows out of palettes and put them with my singles. But for that price, you do get 3 true multi-chromes. I think Whoop Whoop is slightly multi-chrome as well. Not too sure since I haven't used it on my lid. You do get some stunning mattes in here. The color story is 10 out of 10. This is Aussie approved. So yeah, that about wraps up my thoughts for this first impressions. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do let me know if you've picked this palette up, if you're planning to. And again, thank you so much to Glaminatrix for sending this to me in PR. I am so grateful. If you'd like to see more makeup content from me, then follow me on my Instagram. It's Beauty by Skye right here. I post all of my looks there and I'm active on there every single day. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to have you here. I do a lot of first impressions, lots of looks with indie makeup. So if that sounds something you'd enjoy, then please do consider subscribing. And as always, stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!